At a young age, the BSc chairman told me, virtually self-made billionaire.
What is it like to deal with the most powerful in the world?
I'll give you that example. Gautam Bhai is very close. I always mention dad and Gautam Bhai. उनके पास जाओ तो ऐसे लगता है यार अभी तुम चूहे हैं. Because he, at his scale, and building, not money. Building. But it's about scaling up, about building, about, value, power, whatever it may be. If I just say, मेरा बेटा रे ठीक है यार, but let's not link business with beta. My father gave me a base to build. Without that, I would have been building what he built, yeah. And then my son would come in and hopefully build on what I built. When you succeed, there's so much jealousy in family. When I was building Wind, Uniball 50 रुपए का पेन कौन खरीदेगा? We had 5 rupee Reynolds pens. 10 करोड़ यार. 2-3 हजार करोड़ की कंपनी 10 करोड़ में बना रहे हो. आप समझो.
प्लांट लगाने, आपको टेक में खर्च करना है, आप पेन.
How will you do it?
Young people who would like to do business की भाई आप रिस्क कैसे बनाओ?
Don't be foolhardy where you have $100. Take risk. Some people risk लेना ही नहीं है. 1 रुपए का रिस्क नहीं लेना है. These are the people who fail in life.
A 90,000 crore market cap, profitability in 6 years, and an IPO as early as 2015. This is a company you should know about. It's called INOXGFL. और इंडिया में और विश्व के अंदर जितना भी renewable green revolution हो रहा है, this company is paving the way, and their managing director Devansh Jain is on my podcast Dostcast today. He's never been on a podcast before, and his story hasn't been told. And I don't do business podcasts, so why this one? Generally, when you think about business families, and Devansh comes from a business family, you assume that things are handed to the entrepreneur or the second generation with a silver spoon. In Devansh's case, the opposite happened. He inherited thousands of crore of debt, and he had to turn it around. He did. He made his company profitable. And now it's spearheading India's green, clean revolution. और ये हुआ कैसे is everything from going to the cost and making it very lean, having a bare bones office in the early years, to something as small as changing the brand of the pen. So per executive, it's a lesser cost. ये सब करके turning it around, making it profitable to now what it is today. Look, as a young entrepreneur myself, who sometimes struggles with business, I was just taking notes in my head about किस तरह से यार आपके अंदर passion, drive, zeal होनी चाहिए इतना बड़ा business खड़ा कर देने की. क्योंकि आदमी को रिस्क लेना होता है, आदमी को ऑल आउट जाना होता है, और तब भी जाना होता है जब सब लोग अज्यूम करते हैं हाँ इनके लिए तो आसानी होगा, इनको तो सब कुछ मिला ही है. So this honest conversation happened with Devansh, and I'm very glad I did it. I really want to have more business conversations this year. So if you want more conversations like this, please subscribe. And now the episode with Devansh Jain of INOXGFL, something that you will have tons of takeaways from, begins in 3, 2, 1. They've lost the ability to read Devanagari. How is that possible? We're like, no, bro, you read it. I can't read Hindi. Ha ha ha. कैसे काम चलेगा भाई तुम्हारा?
I think it's cool. Problem is you're an Indian. How can you not know Hindi?
Yeah, I mean,
आप action में बोलो कुछ भी बोलो हिंदी तो जानना पड़ेगा ना.
Whatever your language is, you gotta know it. भाई क्या फायदा?
Yeah.
Your QWERTY Hindi is not gonna save you.
Yeah.
So, what's your first language?
English.
English. Yeah. But you can read and write.
Oh, of course. I topped in Hindi. I topped in English and Hindi. So it's ironical. Both I topped at the same time.
Also in math and science or no?
So, class 11, 12. Prior to that, I was a topper. But I topped school in accounts, business studies, economics.
Crazy.
And there was no Hindi in class 11, 12. Not in English and not in math. So I topped in 3, not 2.
Solid, man. I'll talk to you about being a school savant.
Oh, it's been a while. When you go to Carnegie Mellon, that's what happens. You're a geek in any case, yeah? Branded geek.
I'll tell you, like, a friend of mine, he runs this beautiful, clothing software brand. It's called My Morning. I'm wearing this, like, he's made this. He went to Georgia Tech. हम तो ऐसे लगता था हम तो बिल्कुल निठल्ले आए हैं BU से. फिर वो अपने कार्नेगी मेलन के लोगों को बुलवाता था. Like STEM extension में बैठे हुए हैं, क्या microplastics में काम कर रहे हैं. You just feel so stupid in front of these guys. Yeah, you were in that club.
Basically, it was a 4.0. Yeah, so if you didn't get a 4.0, you were a loser. So if everybody around you was only doing 4.0 and IIT brains, then effectively you got a 3.8 or a 3.9. Can't do. So even if you're on Dean's list, but if you're not on the Dean's list with high honors, and then there's someone who's a 4.0, nobody knows you. Hardly just side ho ya bhai tu.
इतना competitive होता था Carnegie Mellon.
At least if you wanted to be competitive. Even in school you had, 10 of us trying to compete. 50 the kids didn't compete. Yeah. So effectively it's about, I was always very competitive. Still am very competitive. So, if someone gets a 4.2 and I get a 3.9, then I just need to get a 4.0.
Well, let's talk about the spirit of competition. Because I sometimes talk to my friends who can relax, who can take a break, who are very chill, like, no ambitions per se. And some of my friends are obsessed to the point of like, it will eat up their life, but they want to win at all costs, right? I mean, I'm not sure how it's bred. I remember in my school, I used to win all the competitions up till a certain point, till I discovered rock and roll, which is why after that I ceased winning competitions, right? But I don't know what it is. Was it the fact that perhaps you saw your family do business, you were just sort of born to defeat people in school?
It's, to some extent, obviously, I mean, when I was younger, I always saw dad building and creating stuff. I mean, virtually built things from scratch. We were a trading family, not a hardcore business family, if I may say so. And dad came in from IIM, and I keep hearing his stories. There was nothing much to do, obviously, had nothing, and then he was building stuff from scratch. And obviously, you didn't have mobile phones and so on and so forth that time.
So no interactions.
So I remember, no interaction. And dad used to be going to Baroda, that's why he was setting up a plant. And obviously, we were much younger, but I just knew dad was away for 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. There's no way to get in touch. He's at the factory. So, you've always heard of the spirit of winning or coming out on top and coming from zero to hero, as they say. So, I think it was somehow, somewhere in my system that when my time comes, whatever's been built, we need to build it to the next level. And I don't know, I've always been very ambitious. And it only increases with time. I don't know why. It's good, it's bad. It's good because, as I've said, we're paranoid. Yeah, we're always watching out for what someone else is doing so that we are not left behind. And how do we move forward? So it's in a good way paranoid. But the bad part is we're always at it. So there's no resting moment or there is no off time, right? But it's subjective, as I say. It depends on what you want to do, where you want to be. Many times someone says you've achieved this, so maybe we take a step back for a minute and then we again get cracking on the next target. And at least in our family, at least between dad and me, we achieve a target. It's like, good, let's move on. So there's no celebration beyond the point. It's just good, let's move on. Good, let's move on.
So you're stoic in victory, but you like the pursuit of winning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We have to win at any cost, all costs.
Who were your peers when you were growing up in Delhi? I was born in I was born in 97. Assuming you were born in 86.
86.
So 86 to, you've seen the 2000s, you were a teen in the 2000s, right?
Right.
So what was that environment like in Delhi? Was it pro this world, or do you feel like your peers were doing something else and perhaps you were sort of figuring yourself out?
Look, I think, we were... I was in Columbus. We were brought up in a manner where, we had flexibility and we had money to do what we wanted to, but we weren't given money to blow. So there were a lot of friends of mine who were living their life, blowing money, right? Ranging till 1, 2, 3. I'm talking about class 11 and 12. Prior to that, obviously, we were kids. We had certain deadlines or we had certain ways. Obviously, you tried to rebel to a point. But then at some point in time, we were brought up in a manner which I think is the right way to be brought up. We weren't spoiled. Yes, we had access to everything. That was one. 2, I think it was also a time where everybody was not so addicted to television, OTT, video games. You were playing outside. I loved carpentry. I did a lot of carpentry. Obviously, cricket, tennis, all that stuff. But I used to create a lot of stuff, and I used to sell some of that stuff. Those initial days of business and making pocket money. But today's generation is very different. Yeah. They're all addicted to OTT. My kids are on, it's like zip, 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 zip.
Yeah.
On the iPad, OTT. We had video games as well, but possibly we had an hour a day of television. Today it's like 7-8 hours. Yeah, half the classes are online. And I think back in the day, it was more, we didn't have social media. We weren't logged in 24 hours, if I may say so. Today, if I tell you something and I leave this room, it'll be all over the place, right?
Sure.
Back in the day, it wasn't like that. You still had silos. You still had some privacy. You could still get away with certain things.
You would hear about the news as opposed to see the news right that second.
Yeah. You're not that connected.
Yeah.
Now it's just so connected.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
two sides to the coin. But I think to some extent, I would have preferred a little bit of the previous time period, just because you get some time. Something's going wrong or something needs to be communicated before people react, before people 1 + 1 and they make it 10. Or, if I call you an idiot for sake of simplicity, by the time it reaches that you're here, they've multiplied it 10 times.
Yeah.
And, you just don't get time to react. We've seen that recently.
I would love to
some
say
of our friends. Yeah.
INOXGFL, Devansh Jain calls Vinamre Kasana podcaster an idiot. Oh, 70 news. I did not mean this.
I'm going to be trolled after this, yeah?
No.
All your fan followers are going to be writing crap about me.
They're very nice. They're very nice people, generally, I think. But yeah, you're saying that. I also think that style of living allows you to think about tough problems.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that my wallpaper right now is about training your focus. The thing my attention span is so severely stunted that if I want to think about a difficult problem, and like you work in a difficult industry, which is like you work in the energy space, and at the scale at which you work, you can't be आप मतलब बात कर रहे हो और एकदम पे आप अच्छा मैं अपना Twitter check कर लेता हूँ, Instagram check कर लेता हूँ. That level of detail you'll miss out. So do you, because you said you're technologically challenged, like do you think that this has helped you out in a way?
Look, Amarnath thinks I'm technologically challenged. That's my wife.
Yeah.
I don't think I am. It's just that I'm not that connected to Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and 10 of these things. Getting more connected now. It's also because I think my focus has always been on building, not spending too much time on all this ancillary stuff. If
you're
I may
not
say so.
As a founder, I should build a personal
No, I
brand.
don't do all that. I've never done that.
You don't have interns writing LinkedIn motivational quotes about you.
I've not done all of that until now. But now, a little bit of that has started. Clearly, I'm sitting here, so I can't run away from that fact. It's happening because I think the entire pedigree of the group and what we're building and what we're creating across energy transition is just phenomenal. And I'm not saying it because we run it, but it's mind-boggling the areas we are working in. How, keeping that in mind, we thought that I need to communicate. Also, it's the next gen, right? I'm not 50, 60, 70, where you're just side. You're seeing a lot of peers now coming in, communicating, being right there. So effectively, it was important to go out and tell the story of what we're doing, how we're doing. It's not that every time we have an IPO or we have a capital raise or something, then you go out and tell 20 investors or 100 investors. I think the larger story of what we're building, how they're interlinked, how we're creating value, it's important to communicate that periodically. So that's a little bit of what we're now doing, along with obviously building what we're building.
So when you were my age, you had an IPO, which is 2015, when you were one of the most successful IPOs, right? You raised roughly 1,000 crores, right? As someone who has just inherited, many would say, a business, you actually found yourself in dire straits because the business, from what I've been told and what I've researched, was practically at zero. To convince so many people to put money into you, like what did that take?
So, Vinamre, I think when I built it, I built it with about 10 crores from the family. So it took a lot of convincing for 2 years. And I said, what's the worst that's going to happen? It'll go. It's not that it's going to drown, at least to the best of my ability. But I said, let me do something, because business is in the blood. Always wanted to come back and create, but not just, if there were other senior people in the system running it, then I just didn't want to waste my time. I always wanted to build something.
You don't want to be a cog in the machine.
No, and I didn't want to waste my time on it. Spend 10 years. I think the energy young people bring is just phenomenal. Now, if you hold it back for 10 years, that energy is gone. You're not going to get that same energy, passion, creativity. Or at least you can leverage that if you, splurge it in the beginning, if I may say so. And fortunately for me, after 2 years of really running around X, Y, Z with all my numbers, Dad finally agreed and we put in what we did. And then we built Wind. So when we built Wind, over 2 or 3 years, it became the third or fourth largest wind energy company in the country at that point in time. The group was known, and what profitability levels we had achieved and how we had built that business was quite remarkable. So the IPO was a super success, if I may say so. In 15,000 was the largest IPO in about 3 years at that point in time. Today, large IPOs are 7,000-8,000 crores. 1,000 is not a big number, but in 15, this was one of the largest. That IPO was the most successful IPO in the whole, virtually 1.5 years at that point in time. Now, 2 years into the IPO, the sector collapsed. So when the sector collapsed, we went from being the largest company in our group that time, possibly the most profitable, if I recall correctly, in our combined group back in the day, to being virtually bankrupt because there was a policy change. For right reason, the government was moving to good things. But unfortunately, many times in India, when you're transitioning, they don't do it in an organized manner. Center says X, states do Y. By the time they get to the table, there's so much collateral damage.
और आपको setup करने में बहुत time लगता है. You find the land banks first. You set up the.
Oh yeah, it took us 5 years to build what we built. Right. I started it in 2010. 2015 is when I IPO'd. So we went from zero to about 4,500 crores that time. We were making about 450, 500 crores PAT that time. It was very large for that period. And then it went virtually bust, right? But 30 players shut down in the sector, virtually out of 33 odd. So that was a very, very painful period for me, those 4-5 years. We survived with zero haircut to any banker. We're the only Indian wind company which survived with zero haircut to any banker. There are possibly only 1 or 2 others who survived with very, very heavy haircuts to bankers.
क्या गतिविधियां लगाई हैं आपने? What strategies were you using possibly in this time? Because like people know about the Great Recession,
right?
And they know about the Great Depression, and they know about the 2008 financial crisis. But this is perhaps unique to your industry, where आप बाकी लोग तो बोल रहे होंगे हमारी इंडिया की स्टोरी हम चल रहे हैं, यहाँ आपकी दुकानें बंद हो रही हैं.
Right. Look, I think, we were, as a group, we were always debt averse. So we were very profitable. Our cost structures are the leanest in the industry in whichever sector we operate, be it chemicals, renewables, wind, solar, whatever we operate in. As a result of which our profitability was fairly large. So when the sector shut down, I didn't have debt. I had working capital debt. But the challenge was, because the sector shut down, जो माल बना हुआ था, वो बिक ही नहीं रहा था. किसी को लेना ही नहीं था. So 6 crore का माल कोई बोलता 5 में दो, क्या agreed 5 में भी वो खरीदता नहीं. Because उसको माल ही नहीं चाहिए था, then it would go to 4 crores. As a result of that, we ended up losing almost 2,000 crores in getting rid of that inventory over 5 years. And as
सदमा नहीं लगता ऐसे? Like
अब आप क्या करो? 5 साल market cap went from 12,000 to 300 crores. We went from zero debt to 3,500 crores of debt. Now, the best way was to jump off and die or shut down and disappear, with 30 other players did, right? So I was not unique. But, we didn't think the pain would last 5 years. We thought the pain would last a year, and then we went in all out. So we'll come out of it. It wasn't a Kodak moment, okay? It was, renewables was the future. It was just a painful transition which we had to get over with.
You had the double COVID on top.
और तो वो 2 साल पेन चला. 2 साल के बाद जैसे ही चालू होना लगा, इस लाइक आप कोमा में थे, कोमा में से निकले और वॉक करना चालू करे, कोविड आ गया. तो हम तो डबल कोमा में चले गए. So that became a 5-year pain. Now when you're so deep in, where do you go? There was nowhere to go. I mean, we had 3,500 crores of debt in that entity. I was all in. There was a group split which happened in our family. So we were left with one company. And back in the day, for example, the entire group market cap was 6,000 for what we had. Wind, I said, was 300 crores with 3,500 crores of debt. I mean, today you may say it's 1.5 lakh with all our listed and unlisted companies, but 6,000 crore group with 3,000 crores of debt, what would we do? So I'm not saying we would be on the street, but for us, it would be worse than being on the streets, yeah. So it was hell. 5 years was insane. But that's the fun. When you've come out of it now, and now that we are building, the speed at which we're building ventures and the value we are creating across the board, God willing, touch wood, is just mind-boggling.
Let's talk about, देखो, first of all, मैं आपको full context देता हूँ. You can have your Diet Coke, by the way. हाँ.
Okay.
I'll give you the full context about my complete lack of knowledge about these. I was telling you, phone पे कि भाई, renewable energy is just one big bracket for most Indians. कि renewable energy में कुछ हो रहा है, EVs में कुछ हो रहा है. That's how generally most people think. But as I was talking to your colleague outside, he was saying कि renewable और green energy भी अलग होती है. Let's actually break it down to the brass tacks. What is fundamentally renewable energy में क्या क्या चीजें आती हैं?
See, renewable energy is basically energy जो आप create कर रहे हो by using renewable sources of power, such as wind, solar, small hydro. Right?
What's small hydro?
Small hydro is 50 megawatt के नीचे वाला hydro. Because large hydro, which is above 50 megawatt, has a lot of relief and rehabilitation exercises. So technically, they don't consider it renewable. But obviously, पानी से बन रहा है तो वैसे तो renewable ही है. There's no pollution.
Right.
And non-renewable is basically gas, coal, oil, etc., derivative products, which create pollution. So that's what renewable is vis-a-vis non-renewables. Obviously, from an Indian context, and given the fact that we live in Delhi, which is one of the most polluted cities, hopefully now the new government is doing a lot, and maybe 1, 2, 3 years down the line, we see a lot of cleanup. But effectively, when kids are born, and I had little kids, they had wheezing issues in the beginning. Every doctor would say the best thing you can do for your kid is leave Delhi.
Yeah.
Leave Delhi. What do you do in that situation here? Everybody wants to now, we are proud of India. We are amongst the most developing nations. But when it comes to the most polluted, सब छिप जाते हैं. कोई बोलेगा मुझे दुबई जाना है, कोई बोलेगा माल्टा जाना है, स्विट्जरलैंड जाना है, इधर. अरे भैया, अगर हम भी क्लीन होंगे, हम भी इधर ही बैठेंगे ना.
Correct.
So I think, it's basically, I think more than just style statement, renewable, it is the cheapest source of power today. It is way cheaper than thermal sources of power. And two, it's doing good to the environment. It's doing good for your future generations. Yes, I think a lot of the next generation people or older generation say, हमने थोड़ी ठेका ले रखा है आगे का. अरे बॉस, पर अगर सस्ता पावर है, क्लीन है, आपका भला हो रहा है, तो प्रॉब्लम क्या है?
Again, at the sake of sounding very stupid, coal power plants जो होते हैं, are they a big contributor to pollution?
Oh, of course. Maximum pollution in India is due to vehicular movement and thermal power. So if you eliminate thermal power, we can't eliminate everything. But if you take in more and more renewables, or as India keeps growing at 6-7%, if all the incremental power is renewables primarily, and thermal keeps going down, you're going to have a lot more clean environment concept here. So the two primary sources of pollution is vehicular movement, because we have such a large population dense, and two is thermal sources of power.
Now, states like Bihar, Jharkhand, and a few others, which are basically the coal powerhouses of the country, right? What is their incentive कि वो renewable पे जाएं जब उनकी पूरी state का revenue वहाँ से आ रहा है?
नहीं, देखिए, what you've already installed is already in place. But incrementally, India is growing so fast, we need a lot more energy per capita. Right? तो आप और जो energy लगा रहे हैं, अब आप renewable लगाएं, because renewables is the cheapest source of power. अगर आप गैस दें, gases become unaffordable. It costs 7-8 rupees a unit to generate, if not more. Thermal would cost about 3 to 4 rupees a unit to generate. Renewables is at about 3 rupees. So effectively, incentive क्या? Thermal, Bihar, Jharkhand, etc., जहाँ पे coal mining हो रही है, वो coal बेचे ना. इंडिया में तो अभी भी coal बेच ही रहे हैं captive requirement के लिए. Globally बेचना है, globally बेचे. पर अब आप 4 रुपए की पावर क्यों लगाओगे जब renewable आपको 3 रुपए में मिलता है?
One of the problems with renewable perhaps is जैसे आप यहाँ नहीं लगाओगे हरियाणा में, because I've been told Haryana is not a windy state, right?
Sure.
But you would install like a turbine in something like a Rajasthan.
Right.
So you're not limited by the places in which you can install power.
No, so wind we are limited, because wind is about 7 or 8 key windy states where you can go.
What are the states?
Gujarat, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Telangana. Right?
Okay.
A little bit of Kerala. But solar can go all over India, and it's rooftop as well as on grid. तो आप तो हर घर में now with Prime Minister's Kusum scheme plus Har Ghar solar scheme, it's basically every rooftop you put up solar. I mean, you get subsidies as well for rooftop, right?
Right.
And effectively, it's a 3-4 year payback. So effectively, after 4 years, you have no electricity bill. It's a brilliant move. So you don't need more, fossil fuel based power coming in. 1, 2, it's decentralize the power. तो आपको transmission line का पे भी खर्चा नहीं करना है. आप roof पे लगाओ and generate power.
You're not responsible कि आपको phone करना पड़ेगा दक्षिण हरियाणा में बिजली विभाग में कहीं पे, wherever you are.
Nothing. I mean, you connect it, so it's connected to your grid, your house grid. I mean, your meter, so that when you're generating from there, that gets offset. When you're not generating, say for example at night or when it's raining, because solar won't get generated then, तो आप उनसे grid से use करोगे, तो जितना आपने generate करा, it gets offset. And but it's become very easy. Yeah.
It can completely replace like a household's demands they're getting from other
Not completely, because energy storage is still expensive, right? But I would say in the next 4 or 5 years, you'll have battery packs as well. We've heard of that with Tesla in the US. You see it many places. In India also, ESS, energy storage systems, battery packs are gradually ramping up as the cost of producing them is declining. As that happens, you put up a battery pack in your house just like you have a solar rooftop. Then you're completely secure. Because रात को power battery से आ जाएगा, or when it's raining.
But what are the challenges in perhaps convincing? See, it's easier to convince people who are perhaps educated, जिनको पता है renewable फायदेमंद है. But आपके, I'm sure, रास्ते में बहुत सारे problems आती होंगी. Because again, you're talking about the future where like the entire India is going to be solar, wind and whatnot.
Sure.
But the average person thinks कि भाई कोयले की खान है, हमारी electricity आ रही है, हम pay कर रहे हैं. How do you convince them? Because
I don't think they matter, because effectively what they're doing is they are drawing from the grid, right? So they are not concerned about hydro आ रहा है, wind आ रहा है, solar आ रहा है. They're just drawing power from the grid at the end of the day. I'm not talking about large consumers. I'm talking about retail individuals, right? Because large consumers, depending on whether you're an exporter or depending on blah, 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 you need green credentials now. You get a premium. Your global investors are not going to invest if you're not carbon neutral and so on and so forth. But for individual investor or any roadside person or any little household guy, how does he care? उसको तो सस्ते से मतलब है ना. जैसे हम रोटी कपड़ा मकान करते हैं, उसको पावर चाहिए तो वो थोड़ी बोलेगा चलो भैया 10 रुपए की रिन्यूएबल ले लो या 10 रुपए की गैस ले लो. जो भी सबसे सस्ता पावर है उसको तो वही चाहिए. That's where discoms come in. Because discoms are providing that power to them, right?
What's discom?
Distribution companies.
Okay.
वही पावर दे रहे हैं आपको. जब आप पुल करते हो, टाटा, रिलायंस, जो भी SC, वो आपको पावर दे रहे हैं. तो पर they are sourcing power or generating power somewhere. Now these guys are increasingly generating power only from renewable sources of power. Because the cost of generating renewable sources is cheaper than generating thermal. So they make more profit, number one. Number two, setting up a renewable power plant can be done in 3 months to 12 months.
So it's a very short time.
3 to 12 months, your gestation period, right? Yeah. And thermal will take you 4 to 5 years. So why don't I just go faster and faster and faster?
So renewable power plant में क्या लगाना होता है? There's no cement or construction material?
See, you can do it in any place. You know, I can put it in your garden. I can put it on your roof, right? So what do you need? A little bit of cementing. जो घर का मेसन या मजदूर होते हैं वो जरा सा कर देंगे, थोड़े आप लगा दिए रूफ टॉप के लिए. अगर आप एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड यूज करते हैं, फार्म एरिया में लैंड खाली पड़ा है आपका, थोड़ा बहुत बेसिक सिविल काम करना होता है, 2-3 महीने में आप लगा सकते हो अपना सोलर पार्क. Wind is complex. Wind will take you, if it's plug and play infrastructure, then you can do it in 4-5 months. Sure. Otherwise 9 months. But that is something which is built by large EPC companies because it's complex. It's at 100 meter, 150 meter heights and you're dealing with 50 tons, 80 tons at that height.
उसको बनाना पड़ता है?
उठाना पड़ता है.
Oh, it's pre-made, then you lift up.
Wind turbine आप बनाते हो, you make that big box, then you have blades.
Yeah.
तो ये तो उठाना पड़ता है ना. And you're picking up at a heights of 140 meters. Very complex train operations. Foundations are huge. It's a very, very specialized EPC job. Solar is not, because anybody can do on the ground. जो भी आपका घर का मकान का वॉल बना रहा है वही आपके लिए कर देगा.
Then what's the incentive to build wind power if you can facilitate everything through solar?
No, because it's an IRR, right? At the end of the day,
what's an IRR?
IRR is returns when you invest. Let's say I'm an investor, right?
Rate of return.
So when you invest, wind returns are slightly better than solar returns because it's far more complex. 1. 2, wind has to be set up along with solar or battery because effectively solar is only in the day. तो रात को क्या करोगे आप? बारिश में क्या करोगे आप? And what's happening is wind and solar are complementary. So when it rains, wind goes up. At night, wind goes up. So when you combine the two, your plant load factor goes up. Suppose solar is 25% and say wind is 35%. जब आप दोनों को कंबाइन कर देते हैं तो आप 50% पहुंच जाते हो. और आप जो ग्रिड ट्रांसमिशन लाइंस भी बनाते हैं, यू कैन बिल्ड ग्रिड एंड ट्रांसमिशन लाइंस की सिर्फ 20% पे चलूंगा या सिर्फ 30%. यू वांट टू बी एट 50-60%. सो दे आर बोथ कॉम्प्लीमेंटरी टू ईच अदर.
Do you wear a hard hat and go to these sites yourself, and that's how you learned about this?
Look, I spent a lot of time. So not now. Back in the day, I'm not an engineer. I did a dual economics and business. And as Dad also says, as business people, our view is broader. Sometimes I think engineers just look at one area and they want to master that. We are trying to master 10 things at the same time.
Right.
Having said that, I've been to sites, I've been to plants. The initial plants which we acquired, which we built, we spent time on that. But now, to be honest, no. It's all Zoom, VCs. Because I know the business inside out. So frankly, me going on the shop floor is not going to add any value. I mean, if I tell you today we have 4 factories being built. One just got commissioned last month. One should be commissioned in the next 10-15 days. Now, and we have 8 or 10 wind parks being built out. What am I going to do? If I'm just traveling to wind parks and plants, it has no value. I think we have a very, very strong team for manufacturing, for EPC, for construction, for land acquisition. I don't need to travel to the plants.
Let's just say I'm a complete novice at business, and मेरी तो ये expertise भी नहीं है. आपके परिवार की भी expertise मेरे ख्याल से you were newspapers, your family was. So you pick up this brand new field, right? And you're like, let's go work in this. What are the brass tacks that you accumulated? कि भाई इसमें ये, like, what are the sort of skills you needed to scale this?
Look, I wouldn't say any specific thing, right? I would say more on business. I think what I personally believe is you got to be brilliant at numbers if you're building something. If you don't understand numbers, it's going to be a tough time. Because effectively, I know every paisa of my cost, profitability, how we are financing, what we are doing, how we are building. आपको नंबर ही नहीं पता तो आप बनाओगे कैसे, चलाओगे कैसे और प्रॉफिट कैसे निकलेगा? I mean, so many people उनको पता ही नहीं कॉस्ट स्ट्रक्चर क्या है या सारी कॉस्ट डाली या नहीं डाली. प्रॉफिट का यही नहीं पता. प्रॉफिट आएगा नहीं, ग्रोथ के लिए आपको जो कैपिटल चाहिए वो आएगा नहीं, तो आप ग्रो कैसे करोगे? कोई विजन तो रखना पड़ेगा और पहुंचोगे कैसे उधर ये भी तो सोचना पड़ेगा. नंबर 1. सो नंबर्स. नंबर 2, आई थिंक नथिंग टेक्स अवे पैशन एंड हार्ड वर्क. राइट? आई मे नॉट नो एवरीथिंग, बट इफ आई एम वर्किंग हार्ड, आई लर्न, आई फॉल, आई मीट द राइट पीपल एंड absorb. And as I said, passion. Because if you're not driven, if you're not obsessed with what you want to do, whether you want to make a pizza, whether you want to make a pastry, whether you want to make a wind turbine, whether it's running a sports complex, whatever it may be, unless you're passionate about it, you're not going to be a winner or come out on top. And I personally believe if you're not in the top 3 or 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4 players or what you do, there's no value add. You're not going to be you're not going to create value. I mean, I'm talking value from the perspective of being listed companies, right? It's like saying many times लोग बोलते हैं मेरे 10 बिजनेस हैं. क्या है भैया? वो एक विंड टर्बाइन लगा रखी है, एक सोलर पार्क है, एक 3 स्टार होटल है, एक रेस्टोरेंट है, एक क्लब है, एक गाड़ी का शोरूम है. क्या कर रहे हो आप? 10 चीजें खोल के बैठे हो और किसी में टॉपर नहीं हो, किसी में हीरो नहीं हो. वो ये हर चीज में एक ही. हाउ आर यू गोना गेट एक्स्ट्रा प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी? व्हाट इज योर मोट ऑफ बीइंग इन दैट बिजनेस? Just, I'm in 10 businesses. I would rather be in one and have such a moat which can't be replicated. Moat yani ki this boundary, artificial boundary,
the one that you created on a castle,
nobody can touch. And I'm just a winner on top. Now, when we see renewables, two players primarily in India control 60-70% of the wind market. Now, after all the pain, when we look at our fluoropolymer business, we're the world's second largest, ex-China. When we look at some of the other businesses now we're scaling them up at a speed which is unheard of. Probably be amongst the top 3 or 4 businesses in the country.
What you said about numbers fascinates me because, again, I am in the spectrum of glamorous but mathematically challenged.
Sure.
Uske andar aapke anywhere from anyone who's on the camera to your average Bollywood star, right? Like they usually have numbers, guys.
Right.
And people also say this about India's trader communities ki inko numbers to ghar pe sikhaye jate and all of that. But some people are just not. I also know plenty of people who are just like thoroughly bankrupt in everything they do. Like they're just so bad, right? Sure. But you said you've met many people, which means people who are just like you, of your ilk, who are also struggling because they don't know their profits. How common is this?
It's not just profit. So they don't know their numbers. I think they don't get into those details. What could go right? What could go? Arey wo chal raha hai to अच्छा है जब when the going is good, it's brilliant. The problem is when shit hits the roof, where do you go? And I tell you, I've seen that. Wind was the most profitable in our erstwhile combined group. It was 12,000 crores back in the day. Market cap 12,015. 2015 was big. Aaj chota lagta hai. It was large. 450, 500 crores of profitability that time was large. Now imagine, I went from 600-700 crores of cash on the balance sheet when the sector shut down overnight to no cash. And in about a year, I had about 1.5 years, I had amassed about 3,500 crores of debt. How do you deal with that shit? How are you going to come out of it? What assets do you have which can be sold? Achha, I had assets to sell. Half price mein becha to 1,500 crore to loss usi se aa gaya mere sir pe. And then you're just paying to the bankers. So you need to know your story. You need to know, like I said, it can't be a Kodak moment, right? Just because I'm passionate, just because I built it doesn't mean अगर time खत्म हो गया है तो आप बंद करो और घर जाओ यार. मैं जिंदगी भर उस पे चिपक नहीं सकता ना. But if there is a moat, if you think it's futuristic, and if you think there is a reason to win, not just कि I'm very optimistic, right? If there is a reason to win, then you got to be at it. And then you need to know about your numbers, yeah. निकलोगे फिर. अरे राम भरोसे चल रहे हो भैया, देख लेंगे, घुमा देंगे, ये कर देंगे. अच्छा पहले क्या था? Many people used to take debt, right? And they were like, I've heard people, some of the biggest business guys, right? Or they're bankrupt now, to be honest, unfortunately. कि भाई मैंने इधर से, and one of them told me in my early days, देवांश, मैंने इधर 14,000 करोड़ का डेट लिया ना ड्राइंग बोर्ड, उसका 7,000 मैंने इधर ट्रांसफर कर दिया, तो अब वो तो उस कंपनी में गया, और ये जो इधर 7 है अब मैंने ये बैंकरप्ट कर दिया, तो मैं तो वापस कभी दूंगा ही नहीं. वो 7,000 तो इधर निकल गया, ये इधर घूम के ऐसे ऐसे आ रहा है, तो अब देख 14,000 कमा लिए मैंने. ऐसा यंग है बॉस, क्या नंबर है, पूरा बोर्ड पे बना के दिखाया यार, ये ऐसा, ये तो इधर निकल गया, ये इधर. आई सेड मैं ही गधा हूं, मैं साला 100-200 करोड़ के लिए इधर पिंग पोंग चिंग चोंग करते रहता हूँ यार. बट नाउ लुक एट द एनवायरमेंट, वेयर इन दिस NCLT environment, you take 10 rupees and you don't pay it, you're going to be declared bankrupt. And not कि आप वो 10 रुपए मार के ले गए, वो 10 रुपए आप मार के लेकर जाओगे बैंक का, अब आपके पास एजेंसीज आपके पीछे पड़ेंगी, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, आपका नेक्स्ट जनरेशन या आप किसी भी बिजनेस को बनाने जाओगे, वो बैंकर आपको 1 रुपया वापस कभी नहीं देगा. सो यू आर कंप्लीटली क्लॉबर्ड. सो इफ यू वांट टू एग्जिट एंड डाई एंड नॉट डू एनीथिंग इन लाइफ एंड रन अवे टू माल्टा और wherever, do that. But if you are here to build, grow, succeed, and obviously, I do realize many times shit hits the roof. People have bad times, people have bad lucks. As long as they give it their best, bankers also realize. और ऐसा कोई नहीं होता है कि आप genuine failures होते हैं, हर टाइम होते हैं. Everybody is not successful all the time. I failed. And when you fail, I mean, Wind was 5 years of failure only for me. When you fail, you show your intent. You do your best. आप लगे हुए हो, करे हुए हो, नॉट कि चोरी करने में लगे हो कि ये निकाल लो, वो इधर पहुंचा दो, घुमा दो. वो सब बॉस कभी घूम के ना, it's going to come and hit you.
No, there is this, इसको people wrongly celebrate this word जुगाड़.
Right.
You know, like हमने क्या जुगाड़ कर लिया. The problem is that वो अंधों के सामने मतलब क्या, like एक आदमी की एक आंख है, बाकी सब अंधे हैं.
Right.
So that person looks very appealing. Everyone knows this person.
Sure.
Like this could be, ये तो हजारों करोड़ की बात है. कोई आदमी 20-30 हजार रुपए ऐसे कमा लेता है, बड़ी तसल्ली से बताता है.
हाँ.
और जो सारे बच्चे होते हैं बैठ के नोट ले रहे होते
हैं, हम
बिजनेस नहीं सीखना है. बिजनेस तो ये सिखाएंगे.
Yeah, I just think you got to be truthful in whatever you do.
Yeah.
And be honest. Because, I've seen this. आप कर एक पेंसिल भी चुराओगे ना, कल आपके पीछे आके वो आपकी 5 पेंसिल जाएंगे, आपको पता भी नहीं चलेगा. I've seen it as a kid. Even if I suppose whacked a chocolate somewhere, what would happen? That chocolate would somehow fall. Yeah, kida, something would happen. It's just in my head. I don't know how it works. At least it happened with me. And harmless, as a kid, you're doing what you're doing. Not that I was stealing, but I'm just saying, कभी होता है, अरे free है यार, kick के लिए ले लिया. वो कभी चलता ही नहीं है. Anything which is wrong will come and hit you.
My dad's Nana ji used to have this policy at our house कि सब बच्चों को लाके टॉफी बांटेंगे वो. He would test honesty and intent. He tried with every kid. Most of them would just eat all the toffees. Me and my older cousin sister, we were selected.
Right.
So अंदर वो ज़मीर बहुत ही साफ था.
Right.
कि अगर मैंने उसको उसके हिस्से की टॉफी नहीं दी, मैं तसल्ली से नहीं दूंगा.
Right.
He would keep doing this test. After like about months, he finalized कि ये बच्चा है.
Right.
ये सबको टॉफी देगा.
Right.
To my, like, it was just like, at that level, I was learning how to handle massive money and give my return to these people who have invested in this Nana ji. But वो बड़ा valuable lesson था. That he trusted me with that.
Right.
And I mean, it just shows to prove that. But when you do business in other countries, because you're also in 16 plus countries and whatnot, see this, there is an Indian way of doing business. Some people are like saying कि भाई Indians ऐसे business करते हैं, वैसे करते हैं. I read this book by Aaron Myers called The Culture Map. Like if you will do business with Russians, they're not going to open up very easily.
Sure.
But when they do, they consider you a friend. If you do business with Americans, right, they will do 2 compliments and 1 negative, just balance it out, extra niceness. Brazilians का आपको खाना पड़ेगा. Everyone's different, right? So when you establish businesses of this scale in different countries, how do you make sure you bridge this business culture gap?
Look, couple of things, right? When we go into a new country, we've just gone into Oman recently. In fact, Dad was in Oman yesterday. You got to spend some time with depending on the scale today, with the local, top guys, ministers, bureaucrats, whatever it is, to show where we are coming in from, what we are doing. Back in the day when different things were being built, when it's too small, startup kar rahe ho aap, it was different. Also, you have people who we take locally, right? It's a mix of Indian and the local people. Because the local people bring in that culture.
Right.
And they work closely with us to understand how we think, what is our vision, what are we wanting to do, whether you were small, big, obviously it changes, but एक promoter का intent क्या है, आप ये तो समझना पड़ेगा for you to be able to communicate it to people.
Right.
And I think over a period of time then, we build that credibility in different paths. Obviously, all that credit goes to my dad. I was a kid when he was, going to a lot of these countries. At this point in time, for example, now when we have global investors across, I'm traveling to Singapore, I'm in Dubai, I'm in London, Hong Kong, Singapore, all these times. We're going and meeting them face to face. Now that happens maybe once in 6 months. Can't do it every quarter. We have IR teams which go out. But even them, you're communicating. What are we looking at doing? What are we building? How do we see it? And, when they hear you, एक बार में तो आपका रिलेशन बनता नहीं है. 2-3 बार देख लिया, सुन लिया, you're walking the talk. चाहे आप फैक्ट्री बना रहे हो, चाहे आप रिजल्ट्स प्रॉमिस कर रहे हो, कुछ भी बना रहे हो आप. You have to walk the talk. Or once you do it a couple of times, then that comfort, that camaraderie kicks in, right? So even when we go into a new country, we start with X investment, right? Maybe X, Y, Z, whatever it is. As we get a little bit more comfortable, they get comforted by us, we get comfortable with them, then we ramp up. That's how we build ventures.
There is a famous quote about family businesses. I was trying to find out some stats about family businesses, but the quote is sort of applicable to the strength and weakness of men.
Sure.
The quote is something like this: strong men create good times. It's a very famous quote. Strong men create good times create weak men create hard times create strong men.
Correct.
Right?
Sure.
The unfortunate allegations on people who are in a family business are usually of this variety. आपको privilege है, आपका silver spoon है, आपने तो उड़ती उड़ती देखी है, गिरती हुई देखी नहीं है, stuff like that. And the reason I think it's unwarranted is because if you look at the stats which I've assembled using Grok AI, is 80% Indian businesses are family owned, right? For all our friends जो कहते हैं आप अपने father के साथ काम करते हो, देखो ये तो मैंने अलग अपना शुरू करा है कुछ. The default for India is not the same.
Sure.
But I'm sure you've listened to this programming all your life. And now, after having spent the last half an hour with you, I see that your competitive instinct isn't marred by this fact कि यार मैं तो family business के उसके अंदर हूँ. How have you handled these dynamics so well?
Look, first and foremost, I'm very focused and clear about what I want to do and what I wanted to do. Build. That's it. So someone talking crap or not X, Y, Z made me no difference, right? Point number one. Point number two, when I fought for that 10 CR to build out Wind, I was very clear. I had the easy way out. And I'm not an idiot to keep fighting. There were 5 companies, could have gone anywhere, tailored them. There were people sitting. It's about what you want to achieve in life, who you are, what you are. As I said, I was very ambitious. The ambition only increases with time, right? And I want to be on top across the board. As simple as that. Now, when you're going to do that, you're going to go and put in hard work. You're going to struggle, you're going to fall, you're going to build, you're going to get people who follow you. And only if you're smart, you create value. Otherwise, when you're taking up top professionals, you're an idiot. No one's going to come and work for you.
They're going to
right?
catch your stuff like
that. Lala ji ke bete ho, to aap bhai Lala ji ke hi baitho. Right? It's as simple as that. Right? And you see it. Someone says, I've recruited this, or my father or my corporate HR picked up these guys. Very good. In 1 month, all those top guys will leave. Because if you're a jackass, or if you had no value, and if you have no vision, or if you can't do shit, what is he going to come and do? Yeah? He's not going to come and report to Lala ji, ye kar diya. It's not some parta system ki ji aaj 100 rupees aaya, 200 rupees ka hai, right? But more, in terms of why it never bought, because at a young age, right, when I was 2010, I was 24. When I listed in 15, I was 28 or 28 and a half. At that time, the BSE chairman told me I was the youngest virtually self-made billionaire. Today, you have startups, right, which are, and nothing against them, right? Someone's a billionaire, someone's 2 billion, 3 billion, burning money. That was a profitable company built with 10 CR, not with 4,000 crores, which is also great. Nothing against them at all. But 2015 was a different era. 2020 and 25 is a different era. Now, when you've built that and you've created that, and then you go through hell, and now you again create what you have, and we're building so many businesses now, very well capitalized, no debt in any of them, barring our IPP venture, which requires debt. Who's going to come and say what? आप कुछ भी बोल लो. I was born with a golden spoon. ठीक है, तो मैं क्या करूं अगर आपको नहीं मिला golden spoon?
Yeah, but I see that some very, very competent kids usually fall in this trap where they have to somehow justify that I am worth every single money that I was born into. Like the self-esteem rides on the fact that you have come from means. But to them, I say, those who don't come from means would trade your position like that. But they're the same ones who criticize you. It's just a very difficult spot to be in, but the stats show otherwise. Now, in Indian family businesses, like I was also told, you split. What does a family business split look like? Because समझ नहीं आया मतलब उसका मतलब क्या होता है?
It's like a divorce.
Achha.
Yeah, let's put it like that. I mean, erstwhile families always had grandfather, grandfather's brother, or brother and brother's brother, hum saath hain, this attitude, yeah, which is right and wrong. But with times, you need to change, right? And I think, It could be pleasant. It could be unpleasant. As I told you, we were at about 6,000 when the split happened. It's been now close to 3 years. We're now at about 1.5 lakh of value across our listed and unlisted entities. We've added 5 new companies. We're building. I mean, we were talking to one of the investors. The capex we're doing this year is more than the capex we've done in our entire group since inception.
That's crazy.
So effectively, there's just more freedom, quick decision making. Between Dad is very ambitious, very aggressive, and I'm 10x his aggression and ambition, if I may say so, in my humble way. Obviously, I'm a product of my father. I've learned everything from my father.
Sure.
I've seen him. And the good part about him is every time I achieve a goal, he says, इतना छोटा क्यों था? हमें तो और देखना चाहिए. So first he'll question me 10 times, तो achieve होगा या नहीं होगा? Achieve होते ही तो बहुत छोटा था. अलग ही level होना चाहिए. So it's this dynamic relationship with Dad which just keeps us going all the time.
And when you have disagreements, how do you overcome them? Because you're sort of both responsible for this.
You know, I think so 3 years ago was a very different period, right? When we were in distress and all that shit was happening. Today, I don't think there are bad disagreements. I think the disagreements are more on the lines of, I think we should go faster. Take decisions even faster than we are taking. And Dad, obviously being Dad, sometimes like, let's calibrate. Do it, then do it. And I'm like, let's take that call, let's go. Fir dekhte hain. Because the size is larger, you can take those calls.
Right.
And I want to grow much faster. But Dad, first let's do this. And then he'll question, Arey hone to do. I'm saying ho jayega. Hone to do. So so you know, I don't think there's a right or a wrong. It's just old versus young. And I think we need to balance it out at times. And I think the good part is we've got a very good, strong professional team, which play a balancing role.
I'm sure. So the reason I asked this is because इस podcast को at least I'm guaranteeing this. एक दुकानदार का बेटा भी दुकानदार के साथ बैठता है, उसको सिखाता है कि बेटा हमारी दुकान में ये हिसाब है, इतनी की चीज आती है. All the way up till, like conglomerates like yours. Everyone watches. So it is very important in India. You have these reels and memes about like कि फादर से बात नहीं होती, फादर अपनी जो अफेक्शन है वो मतलब चुपके से दिखाते हैं या वो बड़े ऐसे स्टोइक तरीके से बोलते हैं कि खाना खा लो, like stuff like that. This country is built on emotions, these emotional stereotypes. But I think the importance of having your dad on your side and a son that you can trust is very important in a system where you effectively run a business in your own family, right? In that way, like, what does it take to build that relationship? Because it can go sour, and I'm sure बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग होते हैं बीच में दरार डालने की भी कोशिश करते हैं. So stakes are higher.
Yeah, as I told you, I said 3 years prior, the relationship was so painful, and not because of the father-son relationship. Dad is dad. Obviously, our relation, 99.9% of our conversations are work, but that's how Papa and me are. It's not that. I mean, he's brilliant with the kids. He's lovely with my sister, Avarna, me. But our relationship is all work, right? Having said that, when we were going through hell, obviously when Wind was doing phenomenally, where everything was great. When shit hits the roof, like I said, there are hundreds of people creating issues. And ये निकम्मा है, ये इसको धंधा नहीं करना आता, इसको ये नहीं पता, वो नहीं. बहुत up down तो life में होगा ही होगा. But I'm just saying, look at the situation. If the whole sector collapses, everybody is going bankrupt. Am I to blame?
No.
Or am I part of that collateral damage? Now you want to blame me, fine. And it's not a school कि आप जाके मम्मी पापा के पास रोगे, टॉफी मिलेगी और आप सलट जाओगे. You have to deal with it. It's the real world. There will be unfair situations, and too bad. I was fighting. I was dealing with it, taking in all the pressure, and it was insane. So at that point in time, obviously, there's collateral pressure on Dad as well, because like I told you, there was so much dependence, split, debt, X, Y, Z, family pressures. Obviously, at his age, he was supporting, doing what he could. But at times, you lose your cool as well.
Of course.
And with the shit that was going on, I would lose my cool every day, to be honest, right? And that was just, so it was, I think, but it's tough times when you come out of it and when you work together at it, that the relationship becomes stronger.
And then something together.
There's much more faith. If I just say, मेरा बेटा रे ठीक है यार, but let's not link business with beta, right? Right. कि आप obviously I love my son. My father loves me. But that's father-son. Business is business, right? अगर
You can
मुझे नहीं
separate those two worlds?
you got to do. I mean, I'm just giving an example, right? अगर धंधा नहीं करना आता तो आप मत करो ना यार. ग्रुप को डुबो थोड़ी दोगे या कंपनी को थोड़ी डुबो. If I like music and I want to be a guitar player, for example, or a piano player, right? I don't know numbers. I don't know business. Just because I'm his son doesn't mean I look after the business, right? Having said that, I think that trust, that confidence, that faith gets built over a period of time when you've shown resilience. You've shown you can take pressure. You've shown you can come out of problems. Problems will come. No running away. But can you deal with it? Will you come out of it? Or when the going is good, da bas tab mast hai yaar. Tab to sab khush. So I think even your question, whether it's a shopkeeper, whether it's a restaurant guy, whether it's a taxi driver, right? Every new generation kid is going to come with deeper ambitions. अगर मैं स्कूटर चलाता हूँ मेरा बेटा तो बोलेगा नहीं कि मुझे वो बोलेगा मैं मारुति चलाऊंगा. अगर मैं मारुति चलाता हूँ मेरा बेटा बोलेगा होंडा चलाऊंगा. होंडा वाले का बेटा बोलेगा मुझे मर्सिडीज चलानी है. It's, that's evolution. That's the cycle of life. So effectively, how will you get there? Only if you're more ambitious. या कुछ और करना है. आलसी लोग भी होते हैं, उनको छोड़ दो आप. तो टैक्सी ड्राइवर वाले का बेटा क्या बोलेगा कि मैं चाहूंगा कि मैं टैक्सी खरीद लूं, राइट? दुकानदार का बेटा क्या बोलेगा कि मैं 10 और प्रोडक्ट करूं और मैं 3 दुकानें खोलूं.
यहाँ ड्राइवर का बेटा कभी ड्राइवर नहीं बनना
चाहता. वो ये तो बोलने नहीं चाहेगा. And it's no offense. I don't think anyone is ridiculing your father, right, or anything. Someone has to give you a base to be able to dream, right? Yeah. My father gave me a base to build. Without that, I would have been building what he built, yeah. And then my son would come in and hopefully build on what I built.
Yeah, people don't. I think some people like the idea that everyone should start from zero. I think it's a little unfair because society would be like 3,000 years before.
Sure.
पीछे चली जाती है.
Yeah.
My father doesn't. He always makes it a point to remember कि मैं BIT सिंदरी बिहार गया था कि तू बॉस्टन यूनिवर्सिटी जा सके. अरे बाबा क्या बात है यार. मैं where can I send my kids? I can't send them to space.
Right.
But talk to me about. You said you're one of the most lean costing models. Like, so you clearly were a topper in accounts, like you said in school. What does ruthless cost cutting look like for you?
Look, for more than cost cutting, the DNA itself is to be very lean on cost. So for example, I'll give you this example.
Like, how do you cut the fat?
I'll give you that example, right? When we were building a startup, GFL had Uniball pens, right? When we were building Wind, so we can't afford a 50 rupee pen.
Wait, hold on. You were selling Uniball pens?
Sorry?
You were selling the Uniball pens in India?
No. I said when Gujarat Fluoro was there, Gujarat Fluoro uses Uniball pens, for example.
Okay, for example.
When I was building Wind, I said Uniball 50 rupees ka pen kaun kharidega? We had 5 rupee Reynolds pens. So just giving you the culture, how we built.
You are cutting down on the stationery.
We were very clear. When we built Wind, the initial logo of Inox Wind was designed by me and 2 of our people in-house. Because I said, I'm not spending 3 lakh rupees or 4 lakh, whatever it was, getting a logo. Because we were startup culture within Inox Wind. I had 10 crore. It's a lot of money. I'm not ridiculing.
Sure.
But boss, आप 2-3 हजार करोड़ की कंपनी 10 करोड़ में बना रहे हो. आप समझो.
प्लांट लगाने, आपको टेक में खर्च करना.
Exactly.
Pen
How will you do it? So the DNA was every paisa needs to be saved without compromising on the task which it had to achieve. पेन है तो क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? ब्लू पेन से लिखो, रेनॉल्ड से लिख लो, यूनिबॉल से मत लिखो. Paper. We didn't use the same executive bond paper with GFL had. We had cheaper paper, right? So the culture in our organization has always been that don't blow. Even our offices across factories, complexes.
Yeah.
The newer complexes, obviously now the companies are larger depending on which one it is. We'll have much better infrastructure. But the initial plant, if you went my first blade plant, it's very bare. Because, we had to be as bare as we could to build that. पैसा नहीं था. Luxury कर नहीं सकते थे.
You didn't hire consultants to give you a 18-month business plan?
Look, I think we worked with McKinsey back in the day that Dad did. But when we were implementing what we were, I had only this much money. And now we don't hire consultants for blue sky approach.
So Devansh, tell me more about this cost cutting. I love that you cut out the
so we've
Uniballs.
Been very lean on cost structures. Even so what are the costs? CapEx costs? HR costs when you're building and raw material cost. CapEx was always very lean. Not anything which was not required go. No corporate office in the plant. Nothing else excess. आप एक लाइन बनाओ, profitable पैसा कमाने लगो, फिर expand कर दो, right? Which is different now. Now we build because we know we'll scale up quickly. पहले piece by piece जाते थे. Second, supply chain costs. Every supply chain item, no matter what it was, initially was run by me. every item. So there was no decision taken. I'm talking back in the day, not now. Today it's too large. There are too many people deciding. They're fully empowered. Everything was run by me. So I knew from the 8 rupees plastic mug, 3 rupees, napkin, whatever we did in whichever part of the production plant, everything was run by me.
You must have been very well loved then.
I don't know. But I was just ruthless. I said, 8 rupees to 7.5 rupees, 3 rupees to 275. That's how we got supply chain in control. And in HR, obviously we couldn't afford. I mean, in a start, you can't afford top level guys or highly paid guys. So you're very, very lean on that.
So you're making the contracts yourself, like you're sending the salaries. You're like
initially. No. Salary processor de raha tha. But I'm saying we didn't have top level people in the initial cases. I'm talking about when I built Wind.
Yeah.
Obviously today now when we're building businesses, we have the best talent and the best people coming to run each of these ventures, whether it's Inox Clean now, Inox Solar, GFL EV. Yeah. These are some of the best guys running it. They have full flexibility to take decisions. They are fully empowered. But obviously certain fundamentals are in place on SAP or HANA or whatever it is. So nobody breaches that. But we take larger decisions now. I mean, we just acquired a company yesterday. We've taken over a lot of O&M assets. Thank you. Those are decisions where we come in. Routine operations, those numbers are set. The ABP, annual business plan is set. अब एक बार agree हो गया, सबने buy in कर लिया, now you go and achieve it here. Obviously, there'll be up and down. Down होगा तो achieve करो, बढ़ाओ, कुछ करो. But it's also easier to do it because we know the businesses inside out.
So I have a very question of scaling and ambition. You've got this very cost-cutting style at the start where even the pen is going to the cheapest level possible. Supply chain ke andar bhi you're like haggling for the best price possible and trying. Right. You're building it from the ground up.
Right.
Which is like mostly people scale by pure obsession and luck, right? Or bahut mehnat karte hain. Then they build systems afterward. You're doing the reverse, I'm guessing. You're building it in a way that it works. At what point do you decide, okay, I'm now going to let this scale and I'm going to splurge so that there are other people?
So I think that changed for us honestly over the past 2 years, right?
Okay.
Because when I built Wind, I was still controlling it. IPO, we started building another venture. Just as I started building it, Wind shut down with the sector change. So obviously then you went into recession, 5 years, trying to save the company. And then I spent the past 2-3 years revamping the entire company. When we had this realignment happening, a lot of shit, 3,000 debt cleanup. Over the past, I would say 18 months, because it's been 3 years since realignment, right? The past 18 months, we've gone aggressively on different aspects because new teams came in, professionals really took over full-fledged because I'd created the whole base. They didn't need to deal with debt. They didn't need to deal with legal cases. They didn't need to deal with any of that shit. So they got a nice plain vanilla piece to pick up and run. All of them have contributed. I'm not taking that away from them. But now when your base अच्छा खासा बन गया है, तो अब आप बैटन लेके आगे भागो, grow करो. I could spend more time building other ventures. And when we're building other ventures, obviously, when you're starting up back in the day, आप हर पैसा बचा रहे हो. आज की date में we take 1,000 crore calls, 2,000, 3,000 crore calls. We're not going to do it at 100 over 10 years. I mean, like I said, the capex we're doing this year is more than the capex we've done over the past, since inception between our chemical and our wind business. So that's how we're moving now. You got to adapt to times. If our cash flows are what they are, if we've raised capital to the extent we have, if we are profitable, then we're going to deploy big time. You got to change gears, right? It's like a गाड़ी. आप first gear पे नहीं चलते रहोगे ना, reverse पे चलते रहोगे. Fifth gear पे भी कभी तो जाओगे ना.
What do you think about the new age startups that literally ये जो cash burning concept आया? This is an emergence ever since VCs and guys from Y Combinator and brilliant Indian guys, they all got together. And I have friends कि मैंने इतने करोड़ raise करे इतने क्या यार burn करते हैं. What do you think about this attitude?
Look, I think some of them are brilliant. I can't commend this for every startup.
No, I'm not saying I think as a general default approach, but what the idea of burning money?
Look, certain businesses require you to acquire customers. And to acquire customers, you need to burn money. That is the principle. लोगे कैसे आप? अगर मैंने आपको suppose food ordering mechanism है, hypothetically, 10 लोग बैठे हैं, और अगर I have raised capital, then I can say na 30% discount. Who's giving that discount? I'm burning that money. And you are coming onto my platform to buy because मेरे तो 30% बच रहा है, वरना 10 और लोग हैं. So it becomes the question of who's scaling up faster, who's raised more capital. Because the more you burn, the more the customers. And then as people start dying along the way, companies start dying along the way, you're getting down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players, right? And now you're married to those 2 guys or 3 guys. और कोई है ही नहीं. So that's one, right? There are certain areas where people just think burn. Most of these guys, yeah, because you hear only those top 3 successful guys.
Correct.
Along the way, 100 people have fallen. But if you're just burning, 100 crore उठा लिया, 200 इधर से उठा लिया, it's stupid. You need to have a clear vision and game plan. And I'm not saying everybody will succeed. You could fail as well. But unless you are ruthless, unless you are passionate, driven, you're not going to come out on top just burning money.
Chalo, I understand you like sports. How do you get passionate about turbines? Like, how do you get passionate about, dude, solar वो panel होता है blue color का, आप कैसे passionate हुए?
I am just passionate about any business I am in. It's as simple as that. Yes, wind certainly, because that's the first baby I built. So wind obviously has a special place, as I would put it. But any business that I build or I'm building, I'm equally passionate. Sometimes more passionate about something else. Today we're building Inox Wind very, very aggressively. We're building Inox Solar. Inox Green is probably going to be the fastest growing IPP in the country. And I'm extremely passionate about it. It's just, whatever I'm doing, I want to be the best at it, right? I want to be the largest, the best. Not necessarily the largest, because, some players, legacy players are 10, 20 gigawatt. I'm trying to do 10 gigawatt in 3-4 years. I am trying to put up a 5 gigawatt solar plant in the next 12 months. Others have taken 5, 7, 8 years. But we're going to be large players, top 2, 3, 4 players, very profitable players in each of these sectors. So it's the passion to be a large player, be very profitable, create value. I think that drives me.
Say you're a small player starting out. How do you beat the giants? Do you make friends with them? Do you ruthlessly?
They don't become friends. They don't become friends. Let's be very clear here. Yeah. So in Wind, we are 35 players. At least 10, 15 way larger groups. We were just focused on what we wanted to do. The aim was not कि इसको हराना है, इसको हराना है, इसको हराना है. At least that time I was much younger. The aim was very clear. Business को successful करना है. 200, 300, 500, जो भी megawatt. And as we kept getting successful, and our product was right, and our quality was right, and our tech was right, it just kept growing. Now, when we get into a business, obviously we're not going to get into it कि time pass 200, 400, छोटा मोटा कुछ करना. It's not worth our time. I would rather devote that time to scaling up the current business then, If I'm going to build something out, then I need to understand what are my moats, what are the requirements. Is it very complex technology, which we can understand? Is it complex EPC, which we can understand? Is it large capital requirements, which automatically kills a lot of people barriers? It depends. And where we think we have a right mix to play and win, we go into that.
How have you scaled so fast? So let me ask you this, because I have friends in different industries. Like, I'm scale karne ki soch rahe hain. All these discussions, but like you're like, okay, let's go from 0 to 5,000 and then more. How do you, like, what is the sort of mindset you have to be in ki bhai scale karna hai, upscale karna hai, and then have it every single day?
Look, so first and foremost, your base business needs to be strong and throwing up cash. Because if your base business is struggling, आप पूरे दिन उसी में डूबे हुए रहोगे, right? जो भी आप कर रहे हो, scale तो एक चीज है ना, जो आप कर रहे हो, if that is stable and strong, only then can you focus on building, right? So when Wind became very strong and stable and is on its own now, generating cash, throwing up cash, whatever it is, then there's time to build more. But then you also go and see, can I do more in Wind? Does it require any extra human effort? Or is it, you're growing, you're beating industry. We went from say 300 to 800 to 2000 or whatever it is. Can it be done organically या लाला जी की जरूरत है? या promoter आके रोज आएगा तो ही होगा? I also delegate a lot now because I know my businesses and there's a strong review mechanism. Something's going wrong, 3-4 things I check every day. You step in.
What do you check? You can't say it.
It's hard to say what you know certain things which you want to know on a daily basis.
Right.
Is that happening? Is that happening? If that's happening, up and down. Is it in control? That's it. Right? जैसे घर में होता है ना, पानी है ना, टंकी चल रही है, पानी बंद हो गया, then mom blows the lid, या आटा खत्म हो गया, या पैसा है, कुछ है, सब दुकान चलती रहे. Let's keep it at that, right? And I think once that is there, then when you're looking at, fortunately for us, we started looking at complementary businesses, solar, IPPs and extended arm of setting up more power plants and solar plants, selling to the grid. जब वो करने लगे, then it requires risk taking. How fast do you want to scale up? Like I said, आपको एक लाइन लगानी है 100 मेगावाट की या एक 100 मेगावाट का IPP बना के बोलना है देखो अब मेरे 3 धंधे हैं. Or you are then going hammer and tongue after it. And if you're going after it, like I said, numbers, your moat, and then you have to have the capital to be able to deploy in that or raise capital. Now, capital is going to be raised if you're successful and people have faith in you or trust in you. New companies, obviously you've not shown history, so आप जाके raise कर लोगे या ये वो, but अगर perform नहीं करोगे, if you don't walk the talk, no one's going to pour money on you. Fortunately for us, the past 3 years, I said, we've been amongst the biggest wealth creators in India. And everything we've spoken about, I believe we've more or less gone and achieved it. Yes, some things could be a quarter here, quarter there. I mean, it's a business. I'm not God. I can't guarantee everything. We've beaten targets. We've beaten profit margins. So I think we're under-promising, over-delivering. That's a mantra. Things can go wrong at times. Yeah? No taking that away. It can. But as long as our intent is right and we're building with all our energy and passion, I think we should win.
When I was a younger kid and my father would take me into rooms with these jaded men who were like far more ambitious, far richer. आप तो बच्चे होते हो, आपको कोई respect इतना नहीं करता. आप side में होते हो, बैठे होते हो. You are just welcome. You're like, I'm glad to be here, right?
Sure.
Eventually, as you sort of acquire your own achievements, right? You go to the world of men again, and then you see how they size you up and whatnot. And notice that the power dynamics and all that changed. And I'm sure you've been in rooms with far more powerful men than I have, right? Simply from a vantage point of, I want to know more. What is it like to deal with the most powerful in the world? Is it difficult? Do they size you up differently, perhaps?
Look, first and foremost, it's an age criteria. If you're all the same age bracket, plus minus 5 years, it's a different answer. If say you're 65, you're my father's age. And I'll give you that example. Gautam Bhai is very close. I always mention Dad and Gautam Bhai. I think
Gautam Bhai is Gautam Adani.
I think spent a lot of time with him. I had the fortune of doing that when we were building his renewable arm. And a lot of the learnings from him, I still hold. I mean, I hold good. How he built when I was in my dumps. How he met me. I was a bacha. He told me a lot of things. Even today, I meet him once in, periodically. Just because when I meet him, he adds this vision. Sometimes you think, अरे 10 billion कर लिया या 100 जो भी कर लिया, अरे वाह. उनके पास जाओ तो ऐसे लगता है अरे यार अभी तुम चूहे हैं. Because he, at his scale, is thinking of the next level. And building, not money. Building. That's a byproduct, yeah. It's not that you're going to take that money. What are you going to do with these heroes? Not even a fraction is being utilized. But it's about scaling up, about building, about, value, creation, power, whatever it may be. And I think I sit with him, he keeps adding ideas. ये कर, ऐसे देख, और सोच, ये क्या कर रहा है? And I think, I don't think I've met so many business people, older. I don't think I've come across anybody as humble, as aggressive. And he knows his numbers. I mean, he may have 200 business. He knows fundamentals of every business. I sometimes don't know the fundamentals of some of the newer things which I'm learning about. He knows everything about everything at his scale and his level. It's unparalleled. So that's on the bigger people. But of course, some of the older people, when you go in, they still think you're a bacha. They don't know about you. They're in their own zone कि हमने life में इतना achieve कर लिया. ठीक है यार. Very good, lovely. You're older than me. Obviously, you will respect everybody. That's how it is. But now let's go to the younger generation, right? Plus minus 5 years.
Guys. Same as you.
Plus minus 5 is a distinct way in which they treat you. When you're zero, kaun ho bhaiya, side ho jao. And when you're somebody, everyone wants to be around you. Everybody wants to meet you. It's very, very different.
Would love to have you over for lunch at our place if you're free.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've seen that. I mean, I've seen a lot of that. Yeah, I was much younger when I was building. People didn't realize, didn't understand. And then when they understood, and then I went virtually zero. I've seen that with family. I've seen that with friends. Cut off. I mean, we're still a large group. It's not that I was zero, but completely cut off. And not completely, but no importance. Hoga. Today, it's a different ball game. Everybody wants to be with people who are successful. Everybody wants to be with people who are powerful. It's as simple as that. No running away.
Yeah. If they're in a smaller room and they're the biggest person, they want to name drop you. It's like, this is my friend. This is my friend. This is my friend.
That's how the world is. Yeah.
Yeah. But so this क्या होता है ना कि अक्सर ऐसा होता है. Perhaps because I'm not in your age bracket. I'm roughly 9 years younger, so I don't fall in that 5 category.
You got my age wrong, yeah.
You're 37, no? But मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि there is this set of gentlemen and perhaps like in their 50s, वो क्या करते हैं, वो गिले शिकवे पाल लेते हैं कि उसने तो हमारे बुरे वक्त में ऐसा करा था, अब तो हम नहीं बात करते. Perhaps we're more savvy. We understand that the world is, people have shorter memories and grudges take you nowhere. But you've literally seen कि आपको zero पे लोग कैसे treat कर रहे हैं. And like you were saying कि they were not treating you nicely at all, right? And now they treat you. So you have access to the extremes of human nature, perhaps more than the average person.
Sure.
What has that taught you?
Look, one thing, I am, my family is my support system. Yeah. So you have friends and so on, but friends are not my family. Friends can be like family, but they're not my family. My family is my family. My family. It's a very small, very tight. It's my mom, dad, my sister, my wife, my brother-in-law. That's about it. It doesn't go beyond. Obviously, in Avarna's, my in-law's side. Because I've realized when you succeed, there's so much jealousy in family. It comes out later. You don't get to know that. One. Two, what it has also taught me is keep your success and keep your things to your limited work. People anyways get to know about success. Because we're listed companies, we're doing this, X, Y, Z, there are shareholders, blah, blah, blah. But aap khud mat itna bolo. See, there's a difference between going and talking all the time about certain things, and there's a difference about going and doing things which you need to do, being a publicly listed company, getting IPOs out, X, Y, Z, so on and so forth. There's a fine balance. Also, when you're on top or when you're doing well, enjoy it. Don't let it go to your head. I mean, at least in our family, तो जरा सा उड़ते हो धरती पे ले आते हैं. तो उड़ना है नहीं. I don't know you for too long, Vinamre, but I'm generally always smiling. I'm a very pleasant, happy guy. My wife would disagree, but other than that, I'm a very pleasant, humorous side to me. Yeah, it's Dr. Jekyll Hyde. Yeah? I can be very serious, which is my work side, and then outside I'll be talking crap with you. Right? It's all rubbish and chilling and
which is
joking
so good
around.
For the soul. You need that.
So effectively, I think if your question really is what have you learned is just keep your head on your shoulders and इतना परख लो यार कौन आपके साथ है जब आपका बुरा टाइम होगा या था और कौन आपके साथ है just because you're very successful. And I know them very clearly. And some of them are very good friends. I'm enjoying having a ball with them. But there's a line. I know कि boss ये आपके साथ है क्योंकि आप successful हो. And then there are certain people who are there no matter who you are. They don't care. They're my friends. They will be with me throughout. But very select people like that. Very few people like that. Majority are in the other category.
What was your playlist when you were going through hell? What's your playlist now? Like
I don't think there was any playlist. I was on the phone. I was working 17, 18 hours.
Okay.
I used to say I was working for the bankers because we were losing 500 crores a year. So every day I was losing 1.5 crore working that much and having legal notices on a daily basis.
You were not playing Eye of the Tiger,
Nothing.
Survivor.
Time ही नहीं था बॉस फोन था वो 17-18 घंटे तो इसी में वो बीच में कुछ टाइम मिल भी जाता 1-2-4 घंटे सोने में निकल जाते थे खाने में 1-8 घंटा या गुंडलू it was hell. Yeah, I mean,
but this went on for years.
Went on for almost I would say 4 years was hell. Yeah, went on for almost 5.5 years.
How did you keep a stable head? क्योंकि इंसान का cortisol through the roof हो जाता है. I've seen people who build massive companies become massively unhealthy as well.
I don't know how I went through it. I have no idea. It was just that, the pain was supposed to be a year, as I said. And then it was like a rubber band. Chalo, theek hai, I was young. Still I'm very young. Rubber band tha. Kheench liya, chalo aur kheench lo ki. पर मेरे केस में रबर बैंड खींच के तोड़ दिया तोड़ के वापस जोड़ दिया फिर खींचा तोड़ दिया इतना खींचा कुछ बचा ही क्या करो यार अब ना तो आप डूब गए हो निकल के आओ कोई ऑप्शन नहीं था करना ही था एंड आई थिंक आई डोंट नो आई थिंक obviously Avarna was very supportive. Mom, dad were there throughout. Gigi, my sister. And I think it kept me going, but it was hell. I wanted to jump off every day. Not that I would ever, but I wouldn't dream that for the worst of my enemies, going through what I went.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, it's not sorry. It makes you so strong. Look at me today.
आपकी आवाज से नीचे चली गई मैंने कहा यार बाकी में बहुत बुरा वक्त देखा होगा साथ भी ने.
बट ठीक है ना आप अगर वो देख तो आप फायर से निकल के आए हो कि आप जब बनाते हैं ना मीट लॉट ऑफ द सीनियर बिजनेस पीपल आई मीट और द पॉलिटिशियंस जैसे जो देसा हुआ ना देवांश बेस्ट है अब तो फ्यूचर के लिए बन गया मैं कह रहा हूँ वो तो सही है लेकिन वो 4-5 साल जो झेलने पड़े उसको आप क्यों भूल जाए सर वो छोड़ना अब तू देख सो आई टेल यू ऑल्सो व्हेन प्रॉब्लम्स कम टुडे आई थिंक दे इजी
because your baseline is just
because
so
it's just low. And when it comes we attack it with all our might that problem doesn't go up. It doesn't matter. Links, connections, solving this, that, whatever you need to do, we just attack it. पहले problem आता अरे कहाँ चल गया ये problem. It's always. Today I don't think problems are problems.
Do you check your phone first thing in the morning when you wake up?
I'm all the time. I don't sleep much. I sleep like 5 hours, max 6 hours.
Yeah.
I wake up in the middle. I check my phone.
Are
People
you
get
on
my replies.
WhatsApp like trying to make some deals happen? Or are you just like saying...
I wish we could get deals done only on WhatsApp.
नहीं होती
Life
क्या?
would be that much easier.
अच्छा.
इंडिया में हर आदमी एक एक पैसा निकालने के लिए बैठा है. I used to do it back in the day. Today people do it. Yeah, so you're still figuring out what's happening
Okay.
across the table.
So you wake up, check your phone first thing in the morning. Yeah.
I pray and then I check my
Yeah,
phone.
you pray first, then you check it.
Yeah.
And you think that first you pray, then you check your phone, then what happens next?
No, I check my phone while I'm sleeping also.
Okay.
When I get up, I pray and then officially check my phone again.
Okay.
That's how I am.
Then what do you do next? Have breakfast.
There's breakfast.
Uh,
Nowadays, I take a little bit more time in the morning. I like to chill.
do some
with,
ritual.
No, nothing.
Morning routine.
With mom and Avarna, always the kids are in school. And then get ready and leave for work.
And then you're out the entire day.
And then it's out the whole day.
Yeah.
And that's office.
Is there a distinction between work and like personal life for
No,
you? Or not?
I don't think so. Not for us.
Right.
I would like it to be. I've tried to do it a lot now. Because if you ask my little daughter, she saw me only on the phone all the time. So Avya will always be like, Papa's always on the phone. And I'm like, always trying to correct that. Papa's not on the phone. Yeah. If I'm on the phone for half an hour, we are out together. Or 1 hour. It's not like I'm on the phone 10 hours. Because when she was born, after that, she's seen that phase when I was never around for a while. Because it was just hell. So I was always on the phone. So that thing is, Papa's always on the phone. And now, if it's Papa, you're not on the phone? Wow. It's like a different ball game.
You think that you would have taken these hits if you were not a husband or a father as a single man? You think it would be harder?
I didn't think about it. I don't think I still would have gone through what I had to go through. Yeah. I mean, we were built for it. We were built for it. The business was in my DNA. I had to succeed. I've heard Papa's stories.
Oh, he's seen worse.
I mean, when you were on zero and what dad was building, you had those large families, what I've heard. And they had license. वो इनको ठोकने आ जाते थे, उनको ठोकने आ जाते थे, बैंक लाइन कैंसिल करा देते थे, ये प्रॉब्लम डाल देते. So, again, I mean, those families are nowhere close to where dad is today. But I've heard those stories. And that time, to 10,000, 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh के लिए problem. Sizes change, but the problems were still the same. I should never have had those problems given what dad built. But it was what was meant to be was meant to be.
What's on your playlist now? What do you listen to?
Oh, now it's crazy. I'm listening to AP Dhillon. I'm listening to Perfect. I'm listening to I Adore You. I'm listening to all sorts of crazy shit. I love Hindi and English. Yeah.
Are you? It seems like you're just obsessed with business. तो आपको किताब पढ़ते हो जैसे कि यार 3-4 किताब मैं बता दूं किसी को जो ये जितने भी business के pages होते हैं ना वो लिख
Only
देंगे
pink newspapers and business magazines. No,
That's
no
it.
books. Yeah.
You still read print?
I mean, either online or most of them are online now.
I recently got a print newspaper at my place in Mumbai. It's very helpful.
See, if it's in front of you, a lot of people see it. I have a habit of reading ETFE, Business Line, Business Standard every morning.
Right.
Sometimes Wall Street Journal and FT. Or just scanning through the website. But these 4 I read. So either I'm used to reading it on my phone
That's
now.
your trade newspaper. You gotta read it.
Yeah. 4, it takes half an hour. You get done with all the 4. You get updated.
What do you do when you're having a tough day?
Happens rarely, but nowadays it's just because targets are missed or something like that. But I think I'm irritated. And poor Avarna needs to deal with it at times. But it's not. Now it's not a tough day. It's irritation at times. It's just that we want to grow faster and people hold us back. They do stupid things at times. But we come back next day and then we'll attack it. And so we try and capture whatever it is. I don't think it bogs me down. It just irritates me.
Okay. What's your favorite city to vacation in the
I
world?
love Dubai.
Dubai?
And
you like their energy that they're
I
constantly
love
building
my
out of
energy
nothing.
goes 5x when I'm there. I love Dubai. I'm in fact headed to Dubai tomorrow. 2 days of work and then I come back. But I love Dubai. Other than that, I've been to Maldives 2-3 times. I love Maldives. I wish I could do that every 6 months. London's nice once in a while. Zurich is nice. But yeah, it's primarily Dubai for me. It's a detox. Being there means my energy going to a different level.
Yeah, Dubai is very, very... I mean, for me, I still like a city with heritage, which is why I still prefer Delhi or somewhere else. Jahan pe koi history. I think that Dubai is just propped up in the middle of nowhere. But kudos to their entrepreneurial spirit to have a city that is basically the crowd puller of the world. They can do that.
What they've done is unreal.
I think the entire Middle East is going through a major reform. You did this interview a very long time ago, and you said that it's very difficult for a family business to survive by the time the third generation comes in, right? Is that objectively true? What have you done to make sure that it doesn't happen to you?
Look, I mean, that's empirical evidence, right?
30% businesses survive beyond the third generation.
Look, to my mind, it's about how you bring up your children. Right? Beyond a point in time, look, if someone wants to be a cricketer and he's not interested in business, can't help it. If I love art and I want to be a painter, I can't help it. But to my mind, and then you can sustain those businesses by having a family office and a trust managing it for you, and you're not leave it to professionals, right? Easier said than done, but what's happening in the US, Europe, in many countries as is happening, gradually that culture will come here. Having said that, I think if you want to scale up, you want to keep building, you want to be, because what you are today, 10 years down the line, someone else is growing faster if you stop growing. So your rankings will keep going down, if I may say so.
You're going
to keep building if you want to keep
You're going to be inheriting a waning empire.
Sure. You may be large, no problem, no issue. But I'm saying if you want to be right there, then you got to work here. You can't say cricket khel ke professionals aapko aur sare, because the other entrepreneurs are building, running, scaling, whatever it may be, at least to a great extent. So in that context, I think, as I said, depends what your kids' passion is, right? You can't force them to do things. And today, girls are as sharp as guys. But beyond that, I think it's upbringing. Assuming they're interested in the business and they will carry on with the business, I think your training needs to be good. You spoil them, you don't teach them value for money, then value ही नहीं पड़ेगा. Like I said, pen. पैसा कितना भी हो, वो DNA तो रखना पड़ेगा ना business को profitable करने के लिए.
कैसे सिखाते हैं value for money?
Look, I mean, for example, our kids, till they were little toddlers, we would buy all those cutie, lovely clothes, shoes, which we are fulfilling our fantasy. But as they grow up, they're not wearing all those designer clothes. They're not going to buy a $300, $200, $500 shirt, jeans, whatever. No, wear normal stuff. Avarna is very clear about it. I still sometimes give in because I want Avia.
Of course, the father always spoils.
Avia has to look, and get whatever she wants. She just gets away with everything. Not so much with Aryavardhan. Having said that, I think they hear how we are building. I discuss a lot of numbers with them.
And they understand?
Aryavardhan understands a lot. Avia is a little younger. Maybe she will gradually. She's very sharp. But she's much younger. Aryavardhan is a numbers guy. So with dad and me, how it used to be, used to throw up numbers. 17 into 89. Boom. And then he would do it. He was very quick, sharp. And I would do those numbers. That's how I was trained on numbers. So now Aryavardhan loves maths. He comes like, Papa, maths. So I'm doing 343 into 16. And I've got the number going. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So he's pretty good. He says, everyone can beat me but Papa. So that's how it goes on. Right? Some of those number things. Sometimes you're discussing profitability. For example, Aryavardhan was making diaries. So initially he made diaries and he was collecting that money. So cost kya hai? Papa, itta ye to aise aa gaya. I said, you put a number to everything. So he knows now how to put numbers. Even if mummy is paid for it. Or the printer is ghar ka printer. Number to lagao aap. Profit kitna hai? Nikalo. And then sometimes he wants to buy Robux. He's obsessed. He's like, 10. I said, how many diaries do you need to sell to buy that? So he's like, I said. And I said, buddy, how long will it take you? How many exhibitions will it take you to make that money? So it's just simple ways. We will still do. It's not that they are deprived of anything.
Right.
But if he comes and says, I want this, please do it today, tomorrow, day after, that's not happening. On his birthday, yes. When he gets an award, when he achieves a prize, when he wins something, yes. But then they're also learning how these numbers play out and what you got to do to get there.
He's not going to assume that things will magically appear.
No, that's not happening.
बहुत सही है यार ये तो
With Avia it's different. With Avia it's different. She just says she wants something and then I just melt. She gets away with everything.
Yeah, my sister is like that too. She got our family's first PS3, PS4. I obviously stole them later on क्योंकि मैं लड़का हूँ. उसने पहला Kindle खरीदा, पहला iPad खरीदा. I mean, I saw the entire gamut of devices possible given to her.
Right.
And I could never have the audacity to ask my parents for anything.
Right.
They would forcefully gift कि तू कुछ ले. Right. But even now she gets away with everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I don't think I can. I just can't. So tell me about the future of this industry that you happen to be in, which is renewables, right? Because abhi bhi coal वगैरह चल रहा है. And I mean, I'm sure on your side, it's very optimistic where adoption is going at a crazy rate. But say 5 years from now, would I have like a solar energy? Would you, if you do, क्या बोलते हैं, अगर आप वो drone footage लोगे किसी शहर के ऊपर से, generally you see
Will you have those solar panels? Oh yeah, sure. I think very clearly. It's not just our business, but I think if you look at the vision set out for the country, Modi ji's target is 500 gigawatts by 2030. We're currently at about 175 watt gigs. We're adding 50 to 60 gigawatts. That's the intention. Now, whether we add 40, 50, 60, we'll get there. All incremental power primarily is renewables. We're putting up a little bit of thermal now because we need more power. And we have some coal available, etc. domestically. So having said that, I think 5 years down the line, you're going to be seeing primarily majority or primarily all fuel sources combined. Renewables is the biggest source of power. You're going to be seeing consumers having the option कि नहीं मुझे renewable ही चाहिए, मुझे thermal लेना ही नहीं है. You know, you can choose that power. Grid is one. With the fuel source coming to you, you'll get that certificate is only renewable. You still have that available in some states. Still early days. A much cleaner nation, much greener country. More आत्मनिर्भर, self-निर्भर. Because आप समझिए, आप oil import करते हो, coal भी import करते हैं to a great extent. Renewable में क्या है? All domestic. Wind आपकी है, solar आपकी है. Turbine हम इंडिया में बनाते हैं. Solar panels and cells अब हम इंडिया में बनाते हैं. So even again, we're an आत्मनिर्भर country. Fully self-reliant. We don't need to look at anybody else. Look at the forex saving we'll have. And imagine if that money can be deployed into education, healthcare and defense. India is just going to boom. I think the next 10 years, India is going to be in a different space. We'll end up saving almost close to $50 billion of imports, $50 to $60 billion of incremental oil imports a year. Imagine that number.
I'm just thinking like from a simplistic standpoint, right? लोग थोड़े स्पॉइल्ड है. देखो एसी चल रहा है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. मेहनत ज्यादा नहीं करनी पड़ेगी रिन्यूएबल्स के अंदर की.
आपको क्या करना है? आप तो घर में बैठे हो.
All of it is self-sustaining. If I combine wind and solar,
someone is setting up a thermal power plant, right? Similarly, someone is setting up a gas-based power plant or a wind power plant project or a solar power project. उसमें कंज्यूमर को क्या करना है? आप तो घर में बैठो मजे से, बत्ती ऑन करो, पावर आ जाएगी आपको. जो पावर एक्सपर्ट्स हैं, they are the ones either setting up large wind parks or large solar parks or large thermal parks. So the masses have nothing to do with this. आम आदमी को क्या करना है इसमें?
What about like solar की बात करें, अगर जैसे मान लो अभी यार, I am sure you saw it a few days ago. We had this massive बहुत बारिश आई थी, बहुत टॉर्नेडो जैसी सिचुएशन बन गई थी. यहाँ फरीदाबाद में कई सारे खंबे गिर गए थे. A lot of my friends, like, they lost their cars.
Sure.
Trees fell down.
Sure.
And one of my friends' solar thing also flew up. ये भी तो प्रॉब्लम होगी फिर.
But that is, I mean, वो तो अगर आपको कहीं पे भी टाइफून आए या अर्थक्वेक आए, तो जो कोलैटरल डैमेज है वो तो होएगा ही ना. उससे क्या है? वो तो आपका घर भी गिर सकता है. अच्छा, चाहे थर्मल पावर हो और ट्रांसमिशन लाइन और खंबे उड़ गए, तो वो तो लगाने ही पड़ेंगे ना. उसका रिन्यूएबल से क्या लेना देना है? एंड ये रूफटॉप तो बहुत छोटा है, इट्स पर हाउस होल्ड. तो अगर घर टूटेगा तो रूफटॉप भी तो उड़ेगा ना यार. I mean, this is life. You know, if you have cars, there will be accidents, right? It's as simple as that.
I'm only saying this because I don't see enough adoption amongst my peers, amongst people I know.
Look, I don't think they're educated enough or they've spent enough time understanding this. I mean, I'm not saying educated enough. They've spent enough time. Or nobody, you know, when you go out with friends, you discuss, अरे भाई, तू renewable ले रहा है या thermal ले रहा है या क्या ले रहा है? ये तो कोई बोलता नहीं है.
You'll be surprised about the number of case studies. No. Nowadays, people are discussing. Sure. Have you seen Shark Tank? They're all constantly discussing business, right? They're constantly discussing.
Sure.
But say, if you are leading this revolution, where is this adoption happening the maximum? Is it happening on a B2B scale? Where, like,
it's all B2B.
Okay.
Because the states are buying renewable energy. All the large thermal power producers have completely shifted to renewable. Large industrial power consumers are only setting up renewable. So it's B2B. Like I said, maybe 5-6 years down the line, it'll trickle to the consumer because now you have distribution companies opening up, more privatization. तो वहां पर आपको ऑप्शन मिलेगा, थर्मल चाहिए या सिर्फ रिन्यूएबल लेना है या किससे लेना है. और मे बी रिन्यूएबल में कोई बोलेगा कि ये 10 पैसा ज्यादा है आज की डेट में. People will then choose to buy. 5 years down the line, maybe it's cheaper than thermal, for example. But that's how it is.
So you're on cue. The electricity is just cut off.
Clearly, you're not getting renewable power. All of these thermal guys have shut you down.
No, I was going to say, yaar, I mean, we've been getting lots of power cuts. I thought this was a phenomenon from my childhood. मुझे याद है मेरे पापा वो हाथ से चलाते थे जनरेटर, you know,
ऐसे घूमते थे,
ऐसे घूमने वाले जनरेटर, you like turn on the electricity in the house. Yeah, and then the DGs came around.
Right.
We didn't install one, never needed it. But now in the summer, they're doing the same thing they used to do in my childhood.
India's growing rapidly. Power did not come up at the same speed at which we thought. And then COVID came. So now we have like peak power deficit of almost 10%. 10% is almost 25-30,000 megawatt. And that is actual power. तो आप renewable में उसको लगाओ तो आपको 75-80,000 megawatt और चाहिए. Plus India is growing. तो जो इंडिया ग्रो कर रहा है वो उस रेट पे जो पावर चाहिए वो भी नहीं लग रही. लोअर क्लास इज बिकमिंग मिडिल क्लास इज बिकमिंग अपर क्लास. कैसे होता है? पहले आप पंखे में रहते थे, आप एसी में रहते हो. अगर एक एसी कल बोलोगे उधर भी एसी चाहिए तो क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ इज ऑल्सो गोइंग अप, तो डिमांड इज गोइंग अप. एंड द बेस्ट शोकेस ऑफ दैट इज मोर पावर कंजम्पशन. पावर तो है ही नहीं. आई मीन वी आर अ ग्रेट नेशन, वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ पावर इश्यूज रिजॉल्व, बट वी आर स्केलिंग अप एट अ पेस at which the power is not available.
तो इसीलिए आपके जैसे होनहार कंपनी की जरूरत है. Like no plug there. I wasn't made to say this. This is very accidental that this just went off. But this has been happening for a while. Look, before I let you leave, let me ask you this. You said earlier something about risk taking. I think बहुत सारे लोग, they, especially younger men, because I have a fairly young male audience as well. They typically find risk taking through a bunch of things. Like they will expose themselves to maybe like cold shower karte hain, or they will talk to a stranger, anything that makes them okay with playing the dice game of life, right? Ki apne zindagi ke sath aap aise khel pao. What is your tip to young people who would like to do business ki bhai aap risk kaise banao? Like how do you have risk appetite?
बिना रिस्क के कोई सक्सेस नहीं है. Having said that, you can't be foolhardy. और आप पागलपने में रिस्क नहीं, अरे देख लेंगे. You have to take balanced calls. और जितनी आपकी औकात है उस हिसाब से आप रिस्क लें. अगर मेरे बैंक में 100 रुपए हैं फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मैं पूरा 100 नहीं लगाऊंगा, नेवर. मैं 50 रुपए का मे बी रिस्क ले लूंगा कि अगर डूब गया 50 तो बचे हैं. ये बेवकूफी मत करो कि आप 100 है तो 100 लगा दो और मर गए तो बैठ गए आप.
वही तो रोमांटिसिज्म होता है एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को. क्या बोल रहे हो आप?
Do it in stages. Don't be foolhardy where you have $100, take risk. So you have people who are very content with where they are. रिस्क लेना ही नहीं, 1 रुपए का रिस्क नहीं लेना. एंड दीज आर द पीपल हु फेल इन लाइफ बियॉन्ड अ पॉइंट इन टाइम, बिकॉज अदर पीपल स्केल अप सो फास्ट, वॉट एवर इट मे बी. अरे कभी तो बल्ला घुमाना पड़ेगा. डिफेंस ही करते रहोगे, वो दूसरा घुमा के छक्के मार रहा है, वो टीम में घुस जाएगा, आप बैठे रहोगे. एंड यू मे बी अ बेटर बैट्समैन. सिंपल पॉइंट. आई एम टॉकिंग इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ बिजनेस, बट सेम फॉर सेम मे बी फॉर स्विमिंग, राइट? कभी तो कूदना पड़ेगा ना ओशन में भी सीखने के लिए.
बहुत टैलेंटेड हो सकते हो,
बहुत हो सकते हो आप. Can't give you all more examples right now.
No, but this is perfect. It echoes the same quote that talent beats hard work. Sorry, hard work beats talent.
Right,
you could be the best, but if you're not like, I'm
you
waiting
got
for
to
the
do
right
it.
opportunity.
So in business also, and in my context, you got to take risks. We are perpetually taking risks, but in a calibrated manner. If my औकात is 100 crore, ठीक है, वो इतना ही लूंगा. 1000 नहीं है, स्टेप लाओ फिर जाओ. जब विंड में 10 करोड़ मिले थे, आई थिंक वी कुड हैव टेकन मच मोर. दैट टुक सो लॉन्ग टू गेट मी दैट. सो इफेक्टिवली डू एक होनहार तरीके से, एक बैलेंस तरीके से आप देखिए प्रोबेबिलिटी क्या है जीतने की और हारने की. या आपको क्या लगता है आप सक्सीड कर पाओगे? फेल भी होगे, ये कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. आपको अगर लगता है कर लेंगे, हो जाएगा, देख लेंगे, तो आप इतना लीजिए. ये नहीं कि लगा दो भैया फिर देखते हैं क्या होगा. दिस इज नॉट अ गेम ऑफ डाइस. दिस इज नॉट अ ब्लैक जैक और रेड वर्सेस ब्लैक कि लगा दो देखेंगे, रेड आएगा तो रेड, नहीं आया तो देख,
कोई बात नहीं, हाउस तो जीतता ही है.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So I think be calibrated, be rational, take risk, and in जितनी आपकी औकात है उस पर आप सक्सीड करो, आप डबल करो, फिर लगाओ. इतनी जल्दी में मत रहो कि आप गिर ही जाओगे. बहुत हम भी 3 साल बाद वी आर स्केलिंग अप द वे वी आर. इज नॉट कि वो हुआ और हम एक दिन में वी वर 6,000. Our group EBITDA was negative because Wind was losing or zero. The group EBITDA today is more than 2,500. And we've publicly stated our vision to quadruple it in the next 3 years. I think we'll do it way before. And we are doubling at a speed which is unheard. But अब आप करने के लिए भी step by step चलो ना. ये नहीं कि सारे बल्ले एक साथ घुमा दिए आपने. In a cricket team, right?
Yeah.
You have batsmen, you have bowlers, you have all-rounders. You don't have only batsmen. You don't have only bowlers. And you don't have only all-rounders. Balance it out.
Dude, I'm going to take your advice about the Uniball pens. I think myself as the chief
The
executive.
Uniball guys are going to kill me. Yeah. The Inox people should give me a gift. Yeah.
No, I think me and my top executives are taking far too many company lunches, which is a company. But that needs to be changed. Hey, man, I had a great time talking to you. I learned a lot, and you're a great person to talk to. I was usually going to plug social media at the end, but since you have one Twitter with like 41 followers and 17 following, I don't think you're active on that. But people can check out your work. Maybe if they are interested, they can see some of your other stuff on Twitter. It was great to have you on.
Thank you so much, Vinamre. I'm getting onto Twitter now and LinkedIn, but Instagram has been there. I've just opened it up. So we gradually get there. But yeah, like I said, that was not my focus. Gradually getting to that.
Of course.
Learning from the best.
Cheers, man. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Awesome.